Last time on The Empire's Edge.
The Baron is dead. He's been assassinated.
You heard the name Roderick spoken, which is Roden's son. Two of the guys look at each other and kind of roll their eyes. They're like, oh, great. You ride up to a person who looks to be in charge. Yeah, so it looks like she's buying it.
What do you mean buying it? I told the truth.
I get us into a parade march.
Oh, okay.
Gonna look impressive.
Somebody else, the circus! The circus has come to town! One of his own baronial guards, apparently a favorite of his, that this Warland guard named Casimir is being named a hero of Warland. The baronial heir, Roderick Cutler, has taken the name of Roderick Casimir Cutler in honor of his late father's most loyal and dedicated friend, even though they're from different classes. A champion of his heart.
How am I supposed to react to that? Because that's awesome. I just love that so much. I was biting my tongue the entire time you were talking.
One of the men that are in the staff, and the way he's dressed, you would think he's going to be like a chief butler. That on whatever little badge is that he wears that indicates that he is a person that has some authority, it must have turned and flipped as he turned and talked to one of you or one of his own staff, and you can see that there is a pattern on that. And as you take a look and look closely at that pattern, it looks very much like that other pattern that's been described to you, that you saw in that one symbol that Boris had. It looks like a steel cloud. So Zelen, you have just noted that the household butler has this symbol, and then in a moment, as he just sort of straightens out his tunic, it flips back the other way, so you can't see that that symbol was there. Just that momentary tell.
I take a quick glance at Boris and Jacob to see if either of them may have noticed, like, can we do a quick eyebrows
I
raise?
take a quick perception check to see if I notice?
Zelen's making eyes at me. I take a
Why
perception.
don't you both make a perception roll?
Unnatural 20, I think I did.
15.
You are both very aware that Zelen is looking at you with one eyebrow up. You have no idea why she's looking at you with one eyebrow up.
Put the other eyebrow up.
Both
Amusingly, Natalie can't do that
I
in real
know,
life.
that's a bummer.
But it's fun to ask her to try.
So,
Right.
visual humor. Thank you, guys.
yeah, that's what we're here for. You mean there isn't a camera here yet?
All right.
Donate to us on Subscribe Star.
What? I don't want to say anything. I just want to
No,
as
soon as I realize that neither of you saw it, I'm just gonna play it off, and we can talk about it later.
At this point, whatever minor luggage you guys have, which is pretty minor, I think it's what you
my
carry in your
backpack.
back. So
Yeah, right.
someone takes your backpack from you, my lady.
My
Carry
baggage
that
is
thing-
your
emotional.
backpack upstairs
that thing's
for you.
full of like gemstones.
Yeah. If they're gonna take it from me, I'm following them because I don't want that out of my sight. That still has my crystal wizard books in it.
You're being led upstairs,
Oh, yeah.
and they're trying to carry and help you with whatever gear. They're used to nobles coming into
I'm like
town.
a foot taller
And-
than all of them, so I just look at them.
Well, but they also are used to people that have numerous cases, trunks, all sorts of things.
More than one change
More
of
than
clothes.
like one little backpack and a change of clothes. Yeah, I think buying some clothing would be a good idea. But they lead you upstairs and take you to different suites in the house itself, and you have your own space. You can unpack, do those sorts of things. So anyone want to do anything before you guys get to just like nighttime, it's dinner, it's the morning, you're back out looking at the city?
So I'd like to check the room thoroughly to see if there's any place that I could hide the crystal books. So there's a lot of people around here. There's this one guy with the steel cloud symbol. I don't know what any of that is. So I don't have to carry these crystal books with me. I'm not leaving them unattended. But is there any,
Go
can
ahead
I?
and roll an investigation that you can.
Yeah. I want to search around my room too, just in case, not thinking that Arkland people are going to sneak into our room and kill us, but just there's nothing planted in our room. There's no other secret entrances. Just giving the room a once over to make sure
Given
it's
that
safe.
my room had the secret doors, yes, I think I'll do that too.
All right,
Yeah.
so everyone make that investigation check. And
I rolled a
Zelen?
13.
I rolled a 12.
The room is very put together. This was very, very well
I rolled a
constructed.
10.
As you've gone through this room, Zelen, you note that there isn't any secret door of the manufacturer that you guys found in Warland.
Right.
That you're looking for something very much like that. You're not finding any. Potentially that means that there aren't any secret doors at all. But at the same time, you didn't find a good spot just to stash stuff in here either.
Yeah.
You could certainly put things on the back shelf of a bureau, in the back of a dresser drawer, but it looks as though there isn't just an easy place to Yeah, there is no screen to lift out of the air conditioning duct or
Sure.
anything
Yeah, or a
like
loose
that.
floorboard I
And you
could
didn't find
pop up
anything
or-
that way. It's very well put together.
So once I realize that, I'm going to head to their rooms to see if they have any place that
Do I have a window
we'd
in my
better
room?
look.
You all have windows in your room.
What's the window filled with? Just like hide or actual glass or
The
what?
actual space, it looks like it is a crystalline, as though somebody
Wow.
sliced crystal, like a clear or mostly clear crystal,
Wow,
and then
okay.
fit it into place. So it
So
has
no
the
getting
uneven.
out through the window.
Yeah, it has the uneven lines of.
No, they don't open?
They do.
Oh.
It has the uneven
I
lines.
just meant jumping through.
Oh, okay. Don't shatter the window. It's very expensive.
Well, you could
Don't shatter
definitely.
the window. It won't.
You might be
Oh.
able to- you're big. You could jump through it, but it's crystalline. You would gauge it to be somewhere between like 3/8 and a half an inch thick.
Mhm.
These individual panes, but it has the lines like lead lining around it, as though
Okay.
like a stained glass window would have.
So reasonably sealed against outside air. Shouldn't draw
Yeah,
too much of a draft.
reasonably. Yeah, there's not much of a draft, but you all see that it's also there is a single section of the window that has a sash, not the entire window itself,
Right,
but a
yeah.
portion of it opens.
I don't trust my demonstrably fairly casual investigation, so I'm going to pack and light my pipe and see if there's any draw as I kind of pace the room with that of the smoke.
Okay, so you're doing that for probably a number of minutes. So let's get back.
Well,
to
yeah,
the
and then
other.
I'm just enjoying the pipe. So yeah.
Right. Jacob, what did you say you rolled?
12.
As you're looking around your room trying to find a spot, you're noting the same things that were related to Zelen, and that is it's very solidly built. There's no obvious secret doors like there had been in Warland.
What good is a secret door if it's obvious, right?
I suppose not, but it got to the point
Then
where
it's a door.
the people. It's just
I find my way back to how I got into the room. I'm like, aha! Wait.
you hear the door. You hear the click in the latch behind you, and you have no idea how to get back out. I'm trapped.
What are you, a dog?
But as you're looking, thinking, well, there's nothing in the walls that I can do. The ceiling, there's nothing there for me. That as you are looking at the bed, around the bed area, you just note that the way that these two boards are, it might have been, it was just maybe improperly made. It wasn't fitted quite right, but it's right by the headboard of the bed. There's just a slight gap between one board and the next board. But that's all you get out of your 12.
Do I hear a beating heart?
No, but the squishing of a spleen. It's the telltale spleen.
You hear me knocking on the door.
Oh God! And suddenly there came a rapping. Yeah. I'll go. Are you actually knocking? I imagine she's probably
By
there
about
at this
that time,
point.
yeah, she probably has come.
Yeah.
You're looking out of this thing, at the door outside.
Oh yeah. Hold on, I'm barely dressed. No, I
Wait a moment, I just crapped myself.
I open up the door. Hello.
Hello.
It's a sage I'm burning.
So Zelen steps into the room.
Yeah, so I'm going to close the door behind me and say, "Hey, I know
Make yourself at home.
I noticed something when the servants, whatever they're called, were all gathered together that I think you and Boris should
Was that
both
the weird
know too.
eyes you were making at me?
Yes. Is there? My room is so tight. There's no place I can hide anything. I don't want to carry these crystal books with me necessarily, but there's some information that you guys should know too. I don't also want to leave them here if they're going to be obvious.
As a matter of fact, I was about to investigate something before you scared the crap out of me. And I gestured to that little gap that I saw on the ground that potentially we'll take
Or
a
in
look
the
at it and see
bed
what
frame.
it is. Or yeah.
Wall behind the bed frame.
I thought you said it was,
It was on the floor.
floorboards
Oh,
right
okay,
underneath the
okay.
bed.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not paying attention. I'm just being a dick.
So yeah, I investigate the floorboards of the bed frame, underneath the bed frame.
You think the only thing that's on your person that could actually fit into that little gap between one board and the other would be the point of a knife, but it wouldn't go in very far before just the width of the blade is going to max itself out.
Yeah, so I'll do
Okay.
that.
And
So you can't pry a board up or anything
no,
that I can put these
it's
Are
books
you,
literally
in?
just a
are you
gap.
trying to
It's not-
lever it, or I don't? You're
Would it
doing
be too
exactly-
loud if I tried to do that? Like they would hear like,
Well, if it-
like we ripped up enough board.
So you're putting some pressure on it. So
Yeah, just if it starts to make too much noise, then I don't, because I don't want them to think that we're
Wrecking
taking
the place.
breaking apart.
place.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It would seem as though you could not lever this thing sideways without it doing structural damage to the floorboard. That you're going to either snap the tip off of the knife, or you're going to like damage the wood.
Yeah.
But at that closer examination, you're right down to it. You believe that there might actually be something like a key that could fit into this thing.
Ooh. All right, that's interesting. Let's go get Boris.
Yeah. So we open up and we just hear like reggae music
you hear
playing.
the-
Ska, thank you.
Smoke.
I'm white.
Smoke
That
rolling
is
down
the
the
impression that I
hallway.
get.
By the time you get down to there, so Boris, you hear a knock on the door.
It's open.
But do you want them to open it right now, or do you want to make a determination where the smoke's going before there's this in-draft of air coming?
I would like to make that determination.
Okay,
I've been doing that for the past few minutes.
Go ahead and roll that investigation now before.
Somehow I'm worse with the help. 5.
You don't note that there's any smoke that's being either blown out of a section or that is pushing away from an area.
All right. So do we come in now?
I said it's open.
Release
Yeah.
the hot box and
Yeah,
open
so
up the door.
It's just tobacco.
Okay. So when we get in there and the door is closed and I have noted that there's nobody in the hallway, do I have to look? Or because I wouldn't talk if there was somebody in the hallway.
There was nobody in the hallways. You were
Okay.
going back in.
I'm going to share the information that the butler, he had some kind of symbol, some kind of thing he was wearing, and the back of it has the steel cloud, that same symbol that we've seen in other places. So I would like to try to figure out, I mean, I guess I'll just carry the crystal books, the crystal spell books with me, unless you have a place to hide them. There's no place that, I'm not leaving them here because I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what that means.
Right. It's
And
definitely not the best for hidden equipment.
And have you found any place that we could stash something?
I've been looking more for secret doors, to be perfectly honest.
Got it.
Did you find any secret doors?
No.
Oh, well, neither did I.
Do you guys share the information about
Yeah, I talk about the little hole that might open up something in my room.
Well, I have a hammer, but that's not quite the solution you're after, I think.
Yeah, well, we haven't tried it yet. But we don't. So the only thing that we have that's small that like fits in there was a knife or maybe a dart, but we don't have like thieves' tools or anything that would actually be able to.
nothing like that.
Did we actually get a key from somewhere? Oh, yeah,
You have
I've
one.
got a key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We've tried that in every other lock. Let's see. I mean,
Yeah,
does
let's
it
go
seem
back
like
and
an actual
see.
keyhole, or is it really just a hole that might have, something fits into it, and then that's the puzzle piece that opens
Well, let's
up,
go back
or
and
might open
investigate
up
it
something.
more.
When you were closer to it, it looked as though it wasn't just a crack in the board or a crack between two boards that has the length of a foot or 2 feet where just the boards didn't fit tight against each other. It's only a gap that's about a half an inch long, so it looks a little more like it was made, that a person cutting that board for this kind of a house, or when you're sure that it's been redone a number of times, when they were redoing this, they wouldn't have left that kind of an error. It
Yeah.
seems so telegraphed, but it is about the same size that a key would be to go into a spot
Okay,
like
so yeah.
that.
I think
But there
we'll
was no mechanism that you saw.
Nice. I think we'll all move back over to my room, and then we'll investigate that together as a group.
Yeah, I agree.
It's worth a shot. I don't think the key to the Worland Chapel will open much, but
Who knows? It's
you never know.
until you
Blessed and
try,
stuff.
yeah. So
I'm not sure the key
We get there.
is blessed.
we get there. I point out the hole in the ground.
Yeah,
and just-
the key wouldn't even fit.
but does it feel like it is like a hole that a key would go into? Like it kind of slotted into something in that way that would
Well,
give us a.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't even
Oh.
fit into it.
Oh,
so
the key is too big.
the key to the Worland Chapel is very old school skeleton key. It just
Ah.
doesn't even fit. You're like trying to put a pencil into a conventional, like the lock on your front door of your house. It just
Gotcha.
doesn't go in there.
And I'm going to investigate it to see if there's any way that we can if we just kind of pry it. Do I think I could just pop it open?
You are all reasonably strong. You do
Yeah.
think with a little bit of pressure, you probably could force, a board up. Jacob, you were sure of it from before.
Yeah.
That if you did put your dagger point down inside that and just lever it sideways, something's going to break.
Is that something that we want to look into right this second with the
No, let's see if we can get them out.
yeah.
Um,
Do they live here with us, or are they just here for now, and then when the nighttime comes, they kind of do their own thing? They leave?
Nobody asked, but it'd be likely that there's somebody that stays on station and some people would go home.
Okay.
Before I go, I'm going to detect magic on this space and just see.
What, you
Just
ready to
is there
go
anything
or it's a
inside
ritual?
of it? We don't have anything to do. I'd rather do a ritual than use this
Yeah, 'cause
spell
we
slot.
like the day was starting to wind down, right? Did we just be preparing for bed
Right.
around time anyway? Yeah.
So I'm going to do a detect magic because I don't want you to sleep here. There could be something magical
Yeah, I don't
in
like
that
monsters
thing
under
that
my
could
bed.
blow up or something.
Wait, you hear a ticking sound.
So I'm
It's
going
that
to
mysterious ticking noise.
I'm going to detect magic and see if.
Okay, so 10 minutes later, you cast that, and
Yeah.
yes, you do detect magic.
Ooh.
is it the magic that we're all carrying because we're all carrying a lot of magical
No, I
goods?
detect
That would
magic
just be
right
rude.
there. I
No,
can.
it's on that.
It's on that space.
Yeah. What does detect magic give you again? Like
it
what do you
gives
learn?
me the ability to detect magic.
Oh, well then. What a well-named spell. Thank you for that. I go to bed.
For the duration, you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet. If you sense magic in this way, you can use your action to see a faint aura around any visible creature or object in the area that bears magic, and you learn its school of magic, if any.
Okay.
So in addition
It's
to
blocked by 1 foot of stone, common metal, thin lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt.
So in addition to the hits you get from each one of you, you're also aware that, yes, there's something on the floor right there by the head of the bed on the floor in Jacob's room that is radiating magic.
Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is find traps to see if it's trapped.
So do you have to concentrate a little more to get that more information?
So that's a different spell. That's a second level divination. It's 1 action, instantaneous.
No, I'm talking about your detect magic. If you keep it concentrating, you said, can you get the school of magic? Is that right
Yeah.
away?
No, that's right away.
Okay, so you would have also noted that it's abjuration.
Abjuration. What does that mean?
It's like typical like magic for those
Protective
kind of
magic.
protective
it's
stuff.
protective magic.
Yeah, it's
So
magic
does that mean more than
circles,
likely?
locks.
I'm going to be sharing all this with you. So does that mean more than likely
well,
it's going to be trapped?
Me, the character, wouldn't know that. That was me, David, answering the question.
No, but
Either paladin might.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So, yeah, I'll say that
I
again.
encourage you to make an Arcana check, given you're the one that knows magic stuff.
Oh, I'm going to make an Arcana check to see what else I can figure out.
Yeah.
Go
Do
for
it.
And I rolled a. Is that
Number.
a skill?
It is a skill.
Yeah,
It's like the third one.
That's a
13 basic,
16.
pretty good, yeah. You believe that this is an arcane lock spell.
It's an arcane lock spell.
So
Okay.
how do we get into it?
Yeah, how do you combat that? Do you just have to
How
know
am
like
I
a key?
supposed to know?
I don't
you
know.
know what the spell
Do I
is.
roll again? Like if I know it's an arcane, do I do another arcane spell? Now that I know that it's an arcane lock, do I roll again?
If it's a spell that you have access to as a druid, then you would pretty much know it immediately. Knowing of it might require, if you don't know it, then you might have to do a bit more research into it. But if you've shared that with us, then maybe Boris, is it a spell that a paladin has that you could just say like, oh yeah, arcane
What's
lock.
the spell?
I know that. It
Arcane
does this
lock?
thing.
Oh, I don't have that spell on my list.
Okay, so maybe a paladin does.
Doubt. It's kind of a wizard shenanigans.
It is a wizard shenanigans.
So
Well,
maybe you
gosh.
do have it on your list.
But wait, I do have a dispel magic.
You do.
Oh.
So what you're aware is that, and it's a spell that you have read about from the Crystalline Spellbook.
So you do have access to it.
So to cast it, you touch a closed door, a window, gate, chest, or any other entryway, and it becomes locked for the duration. If you and the creatures you designate, you and the creatures you designate when you cast the spell can open the object normally, you can also set a password that, when spoken within 5 feet of the object, suppresses the spell for 1 minute. Otherwise, it is impassable until it is broken or the spell is dispelled or suspended. Casting knock on the object suppresses arcane lock for 10 minutes. While affected by this spell, the object is more difficult to break or force open. The DC to break it or pick any lock on it also increases by 10.
So does that mean I can cast a spell magic or
The person, you might be able to. You'd have to be making a check versus whoever it was that set this lock.
Yes, dispel magic would
Okay.
serve that function.
so then I want to cast dispel magic and
Okay.
see if I can get it open.
So then,
Choose one creature, object, or magical effect. Any spell of 3rd level or lower on the target ends. For each spell of 4th level or higher on the target, make an ability check using your spellcasting ability. The DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. On a successful check, the spell ends. At a higher level, when you cast the spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, which I don't think I have yet,
Yeah, so
so
you don't
I
have
don't
to
think
worry
that
about
works.
that.
Doesn't-
Okay, so what do I do?
there is no roll. It's
Oh.
just it's a DC. It's a second level spell.
I love the dance that follows that.
So you cast this,
And I dispel magic.
and you're just looking at it. It doesn't like pop open or something like that.
Right, but so do I then have to detect magic again to see if it's still locked? Or can I just tell that unlocked it, that worked? And
You believe that it's unlocked it.
okay,
I'll,
it's unlocked.
I'll put the tip of my dagger back in and try and pry it open again.
You're able to. You believe, Jacob, that if you had a particular piece of something that was designed to put in there and lift it out, because the dagger would mar the wood, it's going to do something. So someone that has a piece of metal that's just the right size could lift this thing up without that happening. But
So a steel cloud talisman, perhaps?
no, that wouldn't be.
Never
Good-
mind.
good
no
question,
way,
though.
That would have
no
been,
way,
I
though.
would have felt so dumb.
No, it would not be the right size or shape for this. It'd be something more kind of screwdriver-ish with the tip of a flat blade screwdriver bent to one side
Okay.
Okay.
to lift this thing up.
All right, good.
But when you open this thing up, there is a small leather bag inside.
Ooh.
Now, the area of this thing would be about the size of like a lunchbox. It's about
Okay.
4 or 5 inches deep by about 8 inches by about 8 or 10 inches.
Is Dispel Magic another? Because Detect Magic is a concentration spell, right?
It is.
Is Dispel Magic another one, or
It is
would you
not.
still have that going?
It's an instantaneous.
Okay, so asking her is like, is the bag magical? Does it?
Yeah, so I'm going to check the bag because that lasts for 10 minutes, I think, the Detect Magic.
Before I touch it, and it turns my
Yeah.
entire body to stone.
It is not radiating any kind of magic.
But
Okay.
it might still be a mimic.
It's not magic.
It eats you.
Oh god, I grab it, yeah.
And you can tell right away that it's coin.
Ooh.
Oh.
Now, what else you notice too is that there is a layer of like dust, not like dust that would gather on a table because people have been occupying that place, but the kind of dust that matriculates from floorboards been walked on for a long
Oh, this
time.
is perfect.
So this is a dust. This looks like it's been here for maybe a decade, maybe more.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
Well,
How
don't-
much coin?
Yeah, like just open it up and just give a cursory estimation.
You would figure there's probably about 100 silvers in the bag.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, we already have our own kind of spending cash, but this is a nice little thing to know is here.
Yeah, it is a nice thing to have in reserve.
Yeah. But when judging by the what's it called?
Volume?
No, the
Dust.
the dust that's all over it. No one really kind of comes and
Yeah,
maybe
it's
checks
something
on
somebody
it. in a
put
while.
this in the little stash and then has forgotten about it.
Okay. Well,
Perfect. Well,
is it
this
big
is
enough
where,
that your
yeah, will
wizard things
my
fit
will
down
my
there?
crystal
Yes, you
blocks
believe
fit in
your
there?
crystal blocks could fit in there.
Okay, excellent.
Would we have to take out the coin bag?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll throw that and you want to swap it out?
My pocket.
Sure. you
What are
want
you,
to swap
a
it out?
rogue?
Put the blocks
Yeah, you
inside
put the coins
bag.
in your bag and put the blocks in here.
Yeah, that definitely. So I'm going to make that switch. Is there anything else that could fit? Like, could the scalpels fit in there? Do you want those in there? Anything else?
Maybe on top of that, they could.
We left the scalpels behind.
We
Oh,
did.
I
That's
forgot.
right.
You guys didn't take
Oh,
it back
okay.
with
Is there
you.
anything else that we don't want with us that
It'd
would
have
be
to be
good
pretty
to have?
thin.
Yeah,
but-
I don't
Yeah.
have anything bad on me that
what
I want
about
to
the
get rid of.
different-
I go and retrieve the Zrek stone tome from my bag and put it in this.
Okay.
Okay, good.
That
Oh,
would
And-
fit.
the Z block that
Yeah.
goes
yeah,
with
the
it?
Z block. And what about the rock that we have in the tinderbox?
I'm
That
keeping
tracking
that on
rock?
my purpose.
I was gonna say,
on
I
my
don't-
person.
We already put the entirety of the spell book in here. I don't know, like if someone finds that, then they have everything. I
Yeah.
don't think we want to give them any more stuff.
Okay,
Right.
All right.
All right, so you
but
test
but
the
what
lid.
I'd like to do, if I can, if I have the ability, is to use the same spell, that our same arcane lock spell, and put it back on this. So if somebody else, I mean, obviously nobody's found it for years, but if
Yeah.
somebody else happened to stumble on it, they wouldn't just be able to open it. It's locked in some way.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you'd be able to do that. You know you could because of what you've set up and prepared once you re-prepare spells.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could do it tomorrow morning.
Does it all fit back together like it's supposed to? Or
It does. The
okay.
lid. You test it. The lid closes and it fits
As long as
flush.
we obviously swept something under the rug, and now there's just a mound in the middle of the rug.
Well, no, it's definitely flush.
Okay.
But when you put your dagger into the tip of it again, you can again lift it up. There's
Right.
nothing actually. There's not even a latch that makes it click or
Yeah.
anything.
Okay.
So it's just the magic that holds this thing.
That's
shut.
good for,
Okay.
for one night. That should be a fine thing. But we'll have you lock
With
it
you
again
on top
when you
of it
can prepare that
especially.
spell.
That's right.
Move
Yeah.
the bed
Sure.
over a
Yeah.
little bit.
Right. Yeah.
We'll do that.
Put
Yeah.
All right. So do you guys
Yeah. So
ask
that's
them to
good.
switch rooms?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Should we switch rooms?
We can. Do we want to do anything that would draw any sort of potential suspicion to it?
Well, that'd be easy to talk around.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
agree.
Sure.
Yeah, that I'd rather face in whichever direction your
That's right.
Jacob's room is facing.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just switch rooms because because otherwise I can't study them. I can't do anything with them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
So we're going to trade rooms too.
And when you tell the chief butler that, he just gives the orders. They're doing that. Yes, of course. We'll have your luggage moved immediately. Like, what does switching rooms do? You guys just walk to the
Can I
other.
do a not sense motive insight on this guy to see if he's being like snarky about us not having any luggage?
Go ahead.
Of course he is.
Natural 1.
You have no idea. He is the most polite man you have ever met.
Thank you,
I,
Mr.
as
Butler
somebody
man.
nobly raised and who can recognize that.
A little disdain.
Yeah, fair.
He's stunned that you people
I'm
are
a little
nobles.
disdaining of myself given the amount of dirt I've been covered in recently.
But his last name is Woodvane. He's
Ah.
Carl Woodvane is the guy's name.
Okay.
Good to know. What a nice guy.
All right. So we switch rooms.
I go to bed.
All right.
One thing for me to note, how typical was it that there was an armored person armed and armored person through this city. I'm just deciding whether or not to leave how much of my gear behind when we get up in the morning.
Pretty rare, apart from guards. You definitely saw people that had like a portion of like a half plate on. Some people had chain, but for the most part, people were just in their clothes.
Then I'm going to get a hold of, you said his name was Woodvane?
Woodvane, right?
And get him to secure like an armor stand for me so I can have something to actually properly put this splint and my shield on.
At once.
Carl, does everybody we met, do they all stay in the castle? I mean, in the home all the time? Are they here all the time? Or do they come and go? Do they have their own homes that they sleep in? Or does everybody sleep here?
Everyone has their own home, milady. There are those that will remain on staff, on station, if you need something through the night.
Thank you. You are dismissed.
Get out of here. Slaps him upside the head.
You may leave.
Yeah, so the night passes without incident. It's the next morning.
Oh, we forgot to set watch. Uh-oh.
Wouldn't need to.
Knowing you probably cast your alarm spell anyway.
That's built into
You
it.
get up to go to the bathroom and trigger it yourself.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so then the next morning, here's what I'm thinking. If did the three of us get together in the morning and kind of like review what we
Reconvene.
want to do
Breakfast.
today? Yeah, so here's my thought process. I would like to try to figure out what's up with Carl and his participation in the Steel Cloud. Here's my thinking. He clearly kind of is looking down his nose at us. Well, at least Jacob and I.
Say, we're actually higher. We're royalty.
Right.
Like,
So,
compared to
well,
him.
what I'm
Yeah, but
thinking
our-
is I can...
Again, nobility.
What I'm
but-
thinking is
I
I
don't
can
know the
use this
difference.
to our advantage because I want to go to him and act kind of country bumpkin and gosh, I've been made
Act?
this noble and
Wow.
I was thinking it. Thank
I
you
think
for
it's a
saying
great
it.
idea. Keep going.
so I've been raised to this nobility, but I don't know any of the rules. I don't know any of the social norms. Go to him and ask
Well,
him
like put you through boot
if
camp,
he
kinda
could
teaches you-
teach me the different ways to do things. Because my thought process is, if he's in the teaching mode, he is going to relax, and I could potentially find out more. He's going to view me as no threat. He's going to view me as his pupil, so he could then drop any guard he might have and give me
I think that's
information.
actually really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make sure you have the Steel Cloud like talisman symbol thing that we took from Lynch as well. Maybe drop that at an opportune moment, kind of a thing.
Okay. All right. Good.
All right. So then after your breakfast, and there's people in attendance there, and breakfast is at a time, and you walk in, it's a buffet, and you just serve yourselves.
Right.
Then when you're done eating and you approach him, so I'm guessing that both Boris and Jacob have left the room as the majority of the staff, and you ask him to stay for a moment. He does not look very keen on the ideas you're talking, but recognizes its value, that I would be very acceptable to that, my lady. It must be difficult to be moving from one class to the next without knowing what the expectations are.
Thank you. I sincerely appreciate your help. And I grew up in the country. I've traveled, but I have no exposure to this. And I would love to know at least enough that I don't embarrass myself or the people I'm representing.
So roll an insight.
Ooh, dang.
19 plus something. 19 plus 8. Wow.
Wow.
Dang.
So unnatural 27.
You are certain.
Natural 27 would be even more impressive.
You are certain that though he says he'll do this, that it could take him a long time to soften up to you and just relax around you as he's doing this. But his first statement is, when would you like to begin?
I'm not working. You're working. So I'm happy to start right now. Is this an acceptable time, or are there better times during your day?
He steps back and gestures to one of the chairs.
Okay, great. So I'm going to take that to mean take a seat, and I'm going to do so.
All right, so go ahead.
No, I was thinking about dropping the steel cloud right then as I sit down. I'm going to do it. So as I sit down, I'm going to see if I can drop it, but then pick it up like almost instantaneously, pick it up really fast.
All right, so go ahead and roll your deception.
Are you sure you don't mean insight?
Yeah.
Okay, not bad.
16.
He has a reaction, and it could be very telegraphed for him, but it's an eyebrow raise. But he doesn't say anything. But
Okay.
you know he knows you have this.
Okay.
He doesn't say a word.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't expect him to say anything. I just want to put it out there.
Okay, so it's definitely there. And he begins with instruction about the table settings. And so this will go on for like 2 hours.
Until I want to poke my eyes out. I understand. But
With the dessert fork. All right, so let's move on to...
Eyeballs are an appetizer. Thank you.
Jacob, what do you do once you leave breakfast?
First thing I want to do is start tracking down stuff to do with these bows. The information that I got from, I guess that was Woodvane last night about how to get there, the instructions were kind of iffy, but I'd like to know a bit more about where I'm going before I just go there.
Yeah, I think he told you to go to Johann Street.
Yeah, and he gave me like
you
turn here, turn left here.
general direction.
So I'd like to go and see if I can't talk to the Boyer from
The Arc Palace?
The Palace, yeah, and see if
Okay.
I can't talk to him at all and just see, like, hey, so I was told to talk to this guy. What can you tell me about this guy?
Okay,
So
sure.
I go back to that place that I don't necessarily feel welcomed into at the moment because they didn't give us like a free pass back into the castle.
Right. So as you do get to the palace gate where you went through security the day before, and you recall that even though it was an entire entourage, it took you a little while to get through before they just like passed
Yeah.
people. So when you get there, there is a short line.
Oh,
And it's people that have business inside the palace and they're having their credentials checked. There's review. Sometimes it just waits and waits. A person steps off to the side. Somebody comes out, vouches for them. And let me just roll to see if it comes up. I'll go low. No. So no one is turned away in the time you're waiting. So
Okay.
everybody that's there is getting in. And the queue moves up slowly. About a half an hour, 35 minutes later, you are at the front of the queue. What do you say to the guard?
I say, I am Sir Jacob Treadstone, here to meet with the Castle Boyer, or the Palace Boyer is what I'd say.
He pulls out some kind of a document. He looks at it, flips the thing over, and he said, Sir Treadstone, I do not see you on the castle invite.
It is not a it's not a scheduled meeting. We only arrived in the city yesterday. I was just like letting him know, like, we're here for a short period of time. I didn't have time to set up a meeting. I just like to talk to him and ask him a few questions about bowcraft and the city.
Understood. He turns to a runner and he said, summon Ron Tidewell. He's summoned to the main gate complex. My lord, if you would step to the side of this waiting area, we'll see if we can resolve this as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And that runner goes off toward the building, and you wait a little while. You wait for 30 minutes until you can see there's a man walking out. The runner came back almost immediately.
Okay.
A man comes out, he walks up, and the line is always about the same length. There's always, it seems like, about 8 or 10 people trying to get in, and then in small groups, people leave the palace area too. And when he comes up, he says, just to that guard there, yes, what is it? And that guard just nods toward you. And he walks over, and again, you don't look like a noble in any way. He walks over, and he's, arms akimbo. Yeah?
Ooh. And I reintroduced myself. I said, it is a pleasure to meet you. My name is Sir Jacob Treadstone. We are here as part of the entourage from Warland Barony. And
you see, without an insight roll, you can tell he's looking like, oh, crap. It's like, when did they start bringing nobles in wearing buckskin? You're supposed to be able to tell by looking at them. All apologies, my lord, of course. And he looks over to the guard. The guard just nods to him, and you go through that main gate complex, and you're into the main area. So again, why is you here to see me?
I just wanted to ask questions and speak to a master in the art of crafting and creating bows and ammunition, just to see what I can glean from you, what I can share with you that I've learned in our time in the
Brimroar?
in the Brimroar. That's the word.
I would love to share my workshop with you. Please follow me. And he leads you through like the one east side of the palace that's obviously like the working man side of the palace, to the lower level, out the back, and then there's a series of different buildings that look like they produce stuff there. And you can hear the chopping of wood, the clang of a couple of different forges, and he takes you over to an area that's like a Morton building in size. The thing's huge. And there are men all over the place, and they are making arrows, and they're making bows and repairing arrows and making bowstrings and everything else. So it is quite the operation in here. Takes you over to a bench, and there's some chairs, and he, please sit. May I find something for you to drink?
Okay, yeah, that'd be lovely.
Well, good. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's have some wine.
Yeah.
and do.
5 o'clock somewhere.
But he's definitely waiting for you to lead. He doesn't know what to say to you first. You've got to go because you've established your preeminence.
Yeah, I'll start with not the most interesting thing, but I'll produce one of the owl-fletched feather or arrow. Dang it. I have not said that in such a long time, and I always say it wrong. The owl feather arrows.
Why is that owl strapped to this piece of wood?
You wouldn't believe how well they fly. But, I produce one of those arrows, and I start to explain to them the kind of what we went through. Maybe not necessarily the magical properties that they have, but maybe just kind of explaining how I found that these feathers that I gathered from, what was that area called, where the Donalar were, with the Bugbear Valley.
Yeah, he wouldn't even know these places.
Yeah, I use
in the Brimroar.
I use names to sound, like kind of like exciting and more knowledgeable. But just talk about how like I figured out that when I would fletch
near the Donalar Heights, if you said something like that,
ooh, yeah,
yeah, that's like stuff of myth, really.
Yeah. So fletching the arrows with that and how they would feel and fly a little bit better, and just explaining that kind of a stuff to them, and then
you guys could talk. You're probably go on for hours.
I bet, yeah.
The same way that Zellen's over at the house you guys are staying in, and she's getting etiquette training for hours. You're just talking to this guy.
Until I want to poke my eyes out with an arrow?
No, very different. That he has a lot to say and share. And you realize that what you already knew, but with the equipment that he has, various vices that'll hold an arrow, hold a fletching in place, what he uses for glues, what they've perfected, wrapping the individual fletchings, all these different things on a technical level, that you're probably actually undoing some of the areas that you are already, pre-fletched with owl feathers, and are redoing them, and they're much more secure. You like how they're done. He makes suggestions about this, you talk about that, so it loses all pretense that he's talking to a person of the noble class, and he's just talking to you about this craft that he loves so much. So do this for me, though. If you have any kind of make it a straight charisma check, unless you have a persuasion, something else like that, to see what kind of an effect you're having on him as this time goes on. Because this would be an unusual one for him, that he's talking to a person of the noble class about something that most noblemen, unless they're that particular non-courtier type of nobleman, would not get into.
Yeah, I do not have proficiency in persuasion, but I do have a +3 in charisma, which makes that an unnatural 20.
Oh, very good.
Nice.
That after a while, you both realize that you were calling him just Ron, and on a couple of occasions you realized you called him Tide. His name is Ron Tidewell, and it's called him Tide because people that are there were calling him Tide, and that was so familiar that he said, well, Jacob, look at this. And then he blanches. He looks at you and he's like, I am so sorry, my lord. My apologies.
It's fine.
So that after an hour, probably a little less than that, you are getting a little tipsy. You guys have been drinking wine while you're working on this and talking so focusedly on how to fletch these arrows, the creation of bows and arrows. A lot of the technical things he's worked out because he has the expertise to focus on that and do nothing else. That you feel like you're striking up a friendship with this guy.
Ooh,
that
awesome.
You feel as though with that was you said was a unnatural 20. Unnatural 20. That if you came back to the gate and you said that you were here to see Tide, they'd probably just wave you in.
Ooh.
That there's that kind of connection, that you're one of those guys.
That could be so useful, especially since it took me over an hour to get in. Like now, it took forever to get in the first time. That's really good to know. Really good to have.
Yeah. So, do you go into anything any more specific about the bow? This what you believe is an Arnar Yarnsigur bow.
I think I do want to show him my bow because it is kind of like fantastical. This is a really cool bow. And being friends with him, I don't think he's going to do anything like see this and immediately go, oh, this guy must be like evil or steal it from me, or I get locked up in a dungeon. My mind's racing in a whole bunch of different directions. So yeah, I do produce my bow and I show it to him. I said, and this obviously my most prized possession.
He's got a smile on his face because you don't produce it like out of your pocket. It's been like across your back the entire time. So he smiles and he says, I thought as much. That's an Arnar Yarnsigur. And he takes it from you as you're handing it to him, and he's looking at it. He says, well, you can just tell by the lines, the wood, the workmanship. Yeah, the embossing of the stone right here. Amazing. Registered? What's its registration number? And he's not even looking. He's looking at the bow.
And yeah, I look at him and I say, I apologize. I don't know what that means.
And go ahead and roll an insight on him. He's rolling one on you.
Guess what I rolled?
A natural,
A natural
20? He rolled an 18, which is very good for him, too.
Oh, yeah. Insight would be a, where is insight? Right there. 24.
He is wondering at that moment if he's been buffaloed this entire time, that you have this stolen bow and you're going to try to pass it off as yourself, or from what he's figuring, you wouldn't know this specifically, that he has the capacity to register these bows, that if he's going to be asked to like falsify some kind of information about that you have a registration for this. But as he's doing an insight on you, he also rolls so high that he has, with his 8, it would be a 21.
Oh, yeah.
That he's like, wait, no, this guy is totally legit. And so he squints at you for a moment. You're probably squinting back, and he relaxes and says, where on earth did you get a Yarnaryon Sigurd bow? And it's unregistered. You found one?
Yeah, I guess without going too much into detail about the specifics of the journey, but just saying like as we tracked as far as the Gate of the Ages in that time.
So again, this guy, his like the top of his head is blowing off the top of his head.
Yeah.
So, what? That's just too much.
In that time, we did come across this bow, and I've only been recently learning about just how special it is.
He goes to a little office area that he has and pulls out a book that you probably would have seen. This is more Boris's area, but it's actually a record. You've seen these before, records of individual banners and crest for families. And he's just paging through the tome of this thing. But you see that this particular text is just animals that are in bows. They're hand drawings. And you realize that it is a record of Arnar Sigurd bows.
Oh, wow.
And he goes through all of them, and he goes through and goes through and goes through and goes through, and he gets through the whole thing, and he goes back again, and he said, this is a lost bow.
Oh.
This is Arnar Sigurd, bow 17.
Cool.
Been lost for who knows how long, potentially hundreds of years.
Do I get the feeling that he's not going to do anything to try and take this from me? Like, he knows this is my bow. He's just kind of saying, like, this is fantastic that this exists. Do I get the feeling from him that it feels like this bow doesn't belong to me? Like, I need to be doing something to give it back?
With your insight, I would say that he hasn't even gone there, that you're maintaining that read on him. According to this, the last recorded owner of this bow was someone named Joel Brandenburg. But I can't tell by the notation if he was noble or if he was a commoner. The record is so old that there wasn't anything listed about that, and it might have been a blurred line. But they're usually, generationally, it moves from one person to the next. You can see, and he points out other bows, how it's passed from here, father to son, from here, mother to son, this one, mother to daughter, and then here, from an uncle to a nephew. But it's logged and understood who has each one of these bows. Now, it's very likely that the records can be out of date for some time as information finally gets from one master bowyer to another. But this one, look, there's nothing there. Original owner, Joel Brandenburg. Last owner, Joel Brandenburg. I would say that puts it back, who knows, 100, 200 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And, I mean, when we found it, I can't tell just by looking at it any maintenance or any sort of work that had been done on it over time. It seems like it's in better condition than it should be for being as old as you're saying that it is.
He goes to a shelf and a rack rather, stand on the wall and says, "Here's my bow. I use all the time. And I keep in very good condition. Your bow looks newer than this."
Yeah.
So I would agree.
That's fantastic. I do appreciate all this information. I do have a couple more questions. When we were leaving Warland, I was speaking with the late Baron's head of. Oh wait, should I say that yet?
It's up to you.
I don't know if that's gotten out yet. Because if he's wearing their Baron is wearing the ceremonial robes for the loss of someone, he's already being public about it. I don't know
That's a
how
good point.
widespread that information has gotten though yet.
Seems reasonable.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I
move
will
forward.
actually say it as I said it. So the late Baron of Orleans, head of the guard captain Jordan Kane, told me to come here and speak with a bowyer on Johann Street. What do you know of him?
He's very skilled, makes very high quality bows. I don't know much about his past, if he's ever worked for a baron, most people at his skill level have at some point been a baronial Fletcher, or they came from the Corman Empire. I don't know anything about his past, but many people go to him, nobility as well, for the manufacture of bows.
Okay. So he himself, you don't know him personally. You don't know.
Oh, I know him personally, but
is there anything, if I need to go and talk to him, was there anything that I would need to know about him? Things not to say? He actually is a Minotaur, and I don't want to be caught off guard by that.
No, he's a human being. Yes, he's neither a Villaman nor Tiefling. His name is Larkin Silk. So when you go to Silk's house, and yes, it's on Johann Street in a cul-de-sac near the intersection with Flint Street, just that it can be a dangerous place to the unwary. Eyes front, be aware of what's happening around you. It won't be as common a place as what you believe it to be. But he's dangerous only in that he's not helpless.
Okay.
He knows the world's a dangerous place, and so he protects himself. But I do believe that he is a good man.
Well, I appreciate all the information you've given me. And the one last little thing that I want to leave you with as I go out here, because I definitely plan on coming back and continuing talking with you.
Oh, I'd like that very much.
One idea that recently occurred to me was alternatives to arrow tipping. We've recently found a large amount of amethyst, gemstone. What do you think would be the possibility or likelihood of being able to tip arrows with such a stone?
So he's using his insight of 21 he rolled from a little while ago just to see if, like, now you guys are friends, that you're pulling his leg, and he's like, oh, you're serious.
You want to tip arrows with
It
gems?
is certainly...
What kind of wealthy nobleman are you?
Really, it is certainly a possibility. If you're going to tip with any kind of a stone, I'd go with like a flint or not a flint, like a feldspar, something like that, that actually has a glass-like capacity to it. But amethyst, it won't fracture along a line, so you can make a nice cutting blade to it. Could you tip an arrow with that? Yes, you could. But it'd be more like a targeting tip. It'll have as much punch at closer ranges. I don't think you'd notice a difference. But it's not going to have the cutting capacity, and it's very likely just to come right back out. Where a typical, when he holds up an arrow, a leaf-headed blade like this, it's going to go in, turn a little bit, and then get caught on organs, bone. But that amethyst tip would be about the same size and shape as the actual, diameter of the haft itself. But could it be done? Yes, it could be done. I just don't understand why you'd want to do it.
Call it morbid curiosity. It was something that I thought about that would be an interesting thing to consider, but that information itself is already more than helpful.
Okay, well, very good. Yeah, we can talk about that more if you wish to. It's been a pleasure. And then if you have nothing else, he's going to lead you back out toward.
Yeah, I think I've already taken more than a few hours of this man's time.
Okay, so you head back to the gate, then head out. Boris, let's move on to you.
Okay, so
You left breakfast.
Yeah, first things first. I'm going to retrieve my horse from Clive Bannister's livery stable.
Okay.
So get that, mount up, and ride up to the palace. I don't think armored, but with sword, because I'm nobility and I would never go anywhere without sword.
And it won't fit into that little box that Zellen locked the librarian with her spell this morning.
So, approaching gate mounted, ignoring any line or gathering, you moving straight up to whichever of guards I'd gauge to be in charge. If nobody's really especially in charge, whoever's nearest.
You do. So there is a line, and you've got right to the front of that line. And as you come up to it, again, the people that are in line are startled looking up at you. The guards don't seem too bothered. Roll an insight on the guard that's right there.
Okie dokie. It's a 17.
You feel quite sure that he is looking you up and down in the way that somebody determines a threat assessment.
Yeah, no.
That he's looking right now what he would do if you press this any further. And you think that he would be fine with engaging you in a combat to the death right now. I mean, much more than a city guard who'd be like, halt, what are you doing? And anger and frustration. It'd be like in a crowded area, there's gunshots.
Yeah.
Most everyone drops to the ground. This is the guy that would stay standing there and he'd assess where the gunshots came from.
Right, yeah. Interesting. Good to know.
And you
I'm
said
pretty sure
this is at the palace, you said?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm right in
okay.
the palace. I am Sir Boris Kirsonov, here to see the steward Octave Brink.
Your identification.
And I hand him the letters of introduction and make sure that I'm, showing the signet ring of Roden Cutler as I do so.
And as you do that, go ahead and roll that as, I would think, either an intimidate or persuasion, whichever
I'm
one.
going to go with intimidate. I'm feeling
would be
boss up on top of my
would
horse.
be the one that does the thing.
Unnatural 20.
Yeah, he just glances at it in the most cursory way, doesn't even have time to read it, and he's already refolding it, handing it back to you. My lord, pass, of course.
And I proceed.
Yeah, on horseback. Yeah. Yeah, right. Where everyone else is walking in. So, yeah, you feel as though
Don't even notice that Jacob's just kind of sitting there and just going,
wait a second, all I needed was a horse.
that, as I was saying, the timing would have been just about that way. Jacob, while you were standing there waiting for this guy to come out, you see Boris just ride up.
Well, this sells it. I'm buying fancy clothes.
And that in a moment, he is just waved right in. And I doubt that Tide even got out to see you yet. So you're still standing there as Boris went riding into the place. Interesting.
I hand off my horse to, I'm assuming somebody's approaching to take it from me.
Of course, yeah. There's pages just for that way. They take him wherever their livery is.
And, kind of in passing as I do so, where's the steward?
And they just point like in the direction of the main door. They don't even, you're probably already walking past them. There's no words they would even want to say to you.
So I'm going to head in. Once actually inside the palace proper, I'll get directions to the steward if he isn't in his office, or to his office.
Well, in that main gathering hall, it looks like the steward, though he has an office, probably an office complex, is often in this main greeting hall because he directs a lot of things from right there when he's not in a meeting in itself. And at this tour today, I think it's very, very likely. Go ahead and high or low.
High.
He's not there at the moment. So you are directed to his office, which means going through a different security check. So as you get to that security point past this main gallery, there is, again, some of these same steely-eye guards. Go ahead and roll a perception on these.
Do you want perception, or do you want siegecraft? That we were discussing about, kind of assessing as like, if I was trying to take this castle.
I like that. From a tactical point of view, that concept we had developed last game.
I think it was a few games ago, but whatever.
Roll that. Now, I had set up that siegecraft like off the top of my head, and I was thinking that it should be more of a proficiency-based something instead of like a level-based, which is my own advanced Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, it's the old
roots coming through. But I still think an intelligence check, proficiency, but do it as proficiency with expertise.
All right, not going to complain. That actually bumps me up 1.
Oh, but okay.
Natural
Happy
15
to have made
for
it even
23.
easier. Yeah.
Hold on, I think that last one was a bit too overpowered. Here's more.
It's not quite balanced enough. Here's more stuff.
Yeah. I try to be a good DM. I really do.
You're a very good DM. You've made me very powerful.
This is going to hurt later.
Yeah. So again, you go right through this checkpoint without any issue. And you're starting to feel like not that their checkpoints are lax. You think their people are more scary than what like city guards would be.
Sure.
And certainly way more than the guards. You think that any one of these guys could take on and beat Jordan Kane.
Right.
That each one of these guys is really, really tough. That they're not trained like city guards or palace guards typically.
Why are there so many, and why are they here?
Those are great questions. But
yeah, back burner for now.
But you do note too that you being like bold, forward, and acting like you own it seems to be right in their own mindset. So they might even be getting something of a one of us vibe from you, and they're more likely to pass it because they wouldn't want to.
He's a nobleman. He's doing nobleman things. I don't want to know what he's doing. It's not my job.
But not the kind of nobleman that would desk jockey a war, the kind of nobleman that's leading the charge.
Right.
And that's a different kind of guy. Yeah.
I wonder how many of them recognize the sword.
Yeah, that'd be its own thing.
Yeah, sure.
So you are now at, you've reached the his offices. And let's see. So there's an attendant outside of Stuart Brink's office, and then there's a knock on the door, and they open it immediately, and you are announced. And you can see that same Stuart from the other day, Octave Brink, is behind his desk and standing. My lord, what is it may do for you? And he waves the the attendant away.
I step in. Thank you for seeing me so quickly. I wish to know more about the history, the architecture of your city. When my father was tutoring me in siegecraft, I gained an appreciation for architecture, and I have seen buildings here unlike anywhere else.
A worthy skill to develop in yourself. He's making an assessment of you, and he seems to accept it. That's a very reasonable thing for you to do. He rolled low.
I'm being completely honest.
And he had advantage. I rolled a 9 and a 6 natural. I was a little surprised at my own rolls too.
Right.
So he leads you into side room and says, "You are always welcome here in the palace itself to peruse the records that I have kept. There is much on the architecture of the palace itself, and a number of those documents have been kept here in my own offices." And he directs you toward where these things are, and it's both bound books, old school bound, where you can lift off the one cover and put new pages on and rebind it as more information has been added. And then also scrolls in those, you see them now like in restaurants where they put bottles of wine in the wall, that there are scrolls stacked in these little diamonds or rectangles on their point. And there's information in that. And he pulls out a couple and he lays them out, looking at the structure, the architecture, the original build of it, the later build of it. And he said, "You be welcome to stay here for as long as you want and to understand the building of this palace and the castle that is at its root."
I had heard tell also that Carn Keldley is home to a magnificent library.
Oh, the Veda Library. Yes, it's the most magnificent library.
Would it be possible for me to see that as well?
He takes a deep breath. He's like, "It would be." And roll that as a persuasion.
Okay. It's a natural 16 for another 23.
Wow. As he's like taking that deep breath in and he's looking at you and thinking about the things you said, he said, "Yes, I could do that." And he produces pen and parchment right then, and he is drafting a writ right now. And in that writ, he's identifying locations in the library to which you have access. He doesn't say anything about the places you don't have access to, but just where you do have access. And then he dates it and he signs it, blots it, and then rolls it up and presents it to you. This writ will grant you access to 80% of the documentation in the library. There are some things that are still withheld, but with this knowledge, you will gain access to the library itself, which is not open to simply anyone, but then it will also get you to most information, and certainly architect's information, 100% of the architect's information, but 80% of the library in total. So if anyone inside the library says, "I am sorry, this writ does not grant you passage here," that is simply for, security issues or information that's stored there that's on a need to know.
Of course. Thank you so much, Lord Brink. Blessings of the wise upon you.
And thank you, and a blessed day to you as well.
I think I'll stay in like kind of these palace records for an hour to not appear rude or that I was trying to like gain something in particular from him. But in kind of the preparation of that writ, I do want to gauge if I can see where he's putting any seals, particular inks, parchments, that kind of stuff. I with that kind of precision access, I want to know I can get the tools I'll need to go back into the rest if I need them later.
So go ahead and make that as a perception roll.
Okay. 19.
Yeah, so you notice a couple of things through this whole process. One, that he does put what will be tantamount to like a notary seal on this, that it doesn't melt out like a wax. It might actually be a magic something, but there is a seal stamp that he used on the paper, and now the paper itself looks altered where that seal is over his own signature.
Interesting.
So it's definitely been validated by him doing just that. And then as he steps into what would almost be like a butler's pantry, as he steps into that and you're watching him go, you can see that he has opened what looks like a safe or a lock cabinet of some sort.
Okay.
And he sets this thing in there, and it looks as though there are different seals that he could use, not just like this one that he has.
Interesting.
But he's going through this as you two are talking about architecture.
Right.
And he must have a fascination with architecture himself, because he says a few more things about, the crenolines that are in here and other things that are happening here. And as as the conversation ends and he gets back to himself, he actually has the look of like, oh, I just went through a number of routines that I go through that normally I wouldn't do in front of a person. That he catches himself, that he realized that he broke one of his own security protocols, but he's probably hoping you don't notice it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want that as a persuasion, but I wouldn't
I'm
want
just
to...
using the earlier roles.
Okay, I wouldn't want to tip in any way that I recognize that I'm a nobleman's son having a conversation about a thing I like, and that's all the more I am.
But you are aware that there's multiple seals and where they are.
Okay.
And then you're there for an hour or so looking at your stuff. Okay, well, let's see. So you're still in training. You are still talking with him. Yeah, so an hour later you leave. It's still on you.
Yeah. I'll retrieve my horse from the palace livery and...
the valet horse parking.
As he leaves, I'm still sitting out there waiting.
No, by the time... So, no...
Guards, let him in.
I would think, just do a perception that you noticed Jacob standing off to the side as you went in.
Yeah, sure.
You would
I bet I would notice him.
Yeah,
you would.
everybody
He's on the
noticed.
horse.
Everybody noticed Boar's riding up, but would you even notice that Jacob was over
53.
a 53?
Oh, I heard percentage.
You roll really
You roll like
well.
me.
Have a 9.
You actually didn't notice that Jacob was one of the peasant-looking people.
Really? With a
that were over
53?
there.
I just sitting over there, I was like, man, he doesn't even look at me.
Everyone notices that Jacob kind of waved to the side, and that guy just totally blew him off.
I'm getting some dirty looks at dinner tonight.
Oh my God.
Glad I have my own room. I'd be on the couch otherwise.
You are aware, coming back out, Boris, and Jacob, you'll notice this later on, that security going out is almost non-existent. They barely pay attention to you on the way out.
That is interesting.
Because that has some implications to it. And I
Yeah.
won't say more myself, but you're riding back out and you're holding out like very writs and documentation and whatnot, and a guy casually comes over and he's kind of waves you on like, yeah, go, and you leave.
Yeah. I will head to the Veda library to exercise this writ.
All right, so riding in that direction, and as you're taking the basic directions he gave to you, it's easy to find. You'll lose the top of the building, but he had said it's the large domed building, and there are very few that are that
Right,
large, that
yeah.
kind of a dome. And so you lose it for a moment. You ride further down the street, and there's not a lot of horse traffic in the street. So most of them are just moving at just a slow. What would that be? A canter. And I get the impression you're riding a little faster than that. So it's like I want to hear somebody from Willow saying, "Out of the way, Peck," as you're riding by.
Yeah. It. Not obviously not as a full gallop, but a bit more than a canter, so that people just kind of part.
And they are. And you find yourself riding toward this building. It is its own palace. And it might have been a palace. It looks
yeah.
palatial in the way that it's set up. Large dome building. Looks like it's a copper domed building. A lot of stonework. And as you're riding up, you see they have their security too.
Yeah. Is there anybody around to take my horse?
There are so many people around right here that it looks like there's a village that just hangs out in front of the security to the library itself.
Marvelous.
Most streets are like open air markets. Apart from the main streets in the Vista area that are clear the whole time, most of the streets become an open air market. The side streets, not so much. But in this area, it looks like there are so many food carts, food stands. There are so many people trying to get into this library. It must be a line of like 30 or 40 people, and their entourages too. And you're already noting the dress of people. Some of them definitely look like they're Confederation. Some look like they're corpsmen. Certainly, everything in between. That there is just... It's like the central market in old European city.
Right.
It's just a mosh pit of people just everywhere moving. And so your horse comes almost to a stop and then a walk as moving through this, as just everything's going on in this place.
Right.
But the main flux is to head toward the library itself. But the line is long.
Okay. I think more or less the same, that with this kind of a writ, this that much official paperwork,
Right.
I'm just going to bypass the line.
So you can't ride up with quite as much flair as before.
Sure.
But as you come to a stop and the man's already looking up, he's holding out his hand
And
as you're stretching it down, you know that there is a boy at your left foot and he's saying, "Take your reins, sir."
And I hand him the reins, dismount, and what would I gauge to be typical kind of coin as like a tip to hand to a boy like that?
Oh, like a copper or two, maybe 3 would be, you'll probably retain the guy for the rest of the day.
I hand him a silver.
Ooh, all right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Clive Bannister's livery stable.
Dang.
And thank you, boy.
At once. And should I stand there and guard the horse? Or, oh, never mind, sir. And he grabs one of his buddies, and the two of them go off with the horse together.
Before he goes, and your name?
Tim.
In case I need to know later. So then, continue handing the writ to...
He's already taken it and done that. So the documentation is approved, and he doesn't bat an eye that you just bypass the entire line.
Neither do I.
He hands it to you, and he said, "Of course, my lord. Go ahead and roll a perception on this
Do you
guy."
want perception or siegecraft again?
You know, I like that so much to keep forgetting about it. Yeah, make that siegecraft roll. That it's using your tactical knowledge as a trained warrior.
That's an 8 for a 16.
Nice.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's
Expertise
really nice.
helps a lot.
Yes, you note a couple things about him. One, he's that same kind of steely-eyed guy that's guarding the palace. That's that kind of dangerous, way better. And just their mannerism, how they move, how they react, just everything, how their eyes move.
Yeah, no wasted motion.
They are not city guards. That these guys could just eat city guards for breakfast.
Right.
But at the same time, they're armed differently. Where those palace guards had halberds and they had long swords, they were in chain armor that had different reinforced points. These guys are in half plate.
Wow.
It's a whole different tabard too.
Okay.
The ones being worn by the palace look like the Arkland baronial seat. These are different. They have a different pattern to it. Instead of being the anvil and 3 stars for Arkland barony, these guys have a book and 2 stars. And it's weird that they're not showing the same allegiance in the same city.
Yeah, it is.
But you get the impression that these guys don't work for the Baron of Arkland, and yet they are a hardcore fighting force right here in the city. That there's somebody else that runs this library, and yet
responds to baronial authority.
Right, to that authority, but it comes to who has access to it, at least to 80% of it.
I'm very nervous that I don't have my armor and the rest of my party.
Yeah, that it's potentially a more dangerous place than what you realized going into this right now.
Thanks for listening. Send us memes, art, and fan theories on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Empire's Edge. If you'd like to support the podcast, check us out on subscribestar.com/the-empires-edge.